so Tony, did you respond about you can go to the April 13th meeting?
I cannot.
Okay.
I responded that I did not pay attention to my calendar. I'm actually going to be in Athens that day for training, unfortunately.
That's fine.
I read that.
So, you're planning on going, right, Mr. Mayor?
I'm gonna try to get off that day. I think I can.
All right, so, and Denise is gonna be able to take time off to go. So I think it's important, we can only have 2 council members there. So, I'll throw it up to Gene and Garnet and Chip and see who can go. I don't think it'll be available to Chip only because he started a new position. I don't think that'll way back to him. So,
Did I miss?
you have an interest, Gene?
I missed.
9 a.m. is gonna be 2 hours. 9 a.m., 2
I
hours.
must have picked it up again.
On the 13th, which for some reason I say it's Tuesday, but I've been wrong more than I've been right.
I think it is, that's
That's
why,
on Thursday,
yeah.
that's on Thursday.
Oh, is it on a
13th
Thursday?
on Thursday. The DDOT is on
Yep,
Tuesday.
yep.
Where's that at?
It's gonna be at their office in Gainesville, the DOT office.
Oh, I thought it was on a Tuesday. The
I did
11th?
too. No.
The 13th.
13th.
So what's the 11th?
The 11th is the transportation.
Yeah, yeah.
I don't want to jump
That's-
ahead.
go-
I can go if Garnet
Junior
can't
college.
go, but if Garnet wants to go,
Yeah, we'll go.
how about it?
All right, so you're
Oh,
gonna
you
go,
you
Garnet?
both can go, not, you both can't go. I got,
Both of us can't go, one of us.
Yeah, only one can go.
he can probably back out of
But
it.
Denise is going.
Denise is going, I can't, the 2 council members go, Denise is going. I'll defer to you, since you can go, a lot of times you can't get off, I can get off most times.
Are you gonna go?
You can go ahead, because you're not working, a lot of times you can't get off. You off now, you can go, I'm gonna defer to you. But a lot of times that I can go when you can't go, because you working.
Okay.
Be there going.
And I'll remind everybody,
No problem.
because we should be getting another
I
email.
mean, I'll go if you can't go, but,
We got it.
No.
I'll defer to you because of your work.
And I'll give y'all some Q and A's that we want to make sure we cover this time and have it. That they were going to bring forward, so hopefully they'll bring those. On the transportation forum, I bought 4 tickets. Are you going to be able to go?
I'm gonna try to do that one too.
All right, and Denise, were you going to try to go to that?
That's the 11th.
Yes.
Yep.
Yes.
Tony, would you be available the 11th?
That's the one I wanted to attend.
Yeah, it's a lunch.
Yeah.
Well,
Well, because there's food.
I mean, it's lunch.
That's why
I bought 4 tickets. I could buy more, but it hadn't sold out.
No, I wanted.
And y'all can have as many as you want to go to that.
Gotcha.
I had to do that.
My hope is Russell McMurray, who is our state commissioner, will be there. And he's a local boy, and this would be a good time to talk with him about 365 program and try to start getting him in tune. That was my hope. But it's still, the transportation forum is still worthwhile in attending. You'll see where everything else, all the money's being spent. So everybody, it's open to everybody, but I've only ordered 4 tickets. So Dean, if you want to go,
I'll go on that one.
and Tony, you're planning on going to that?
Yeah, I've got it scheduled on my
All right.
work calendar.
Garnet, you want to go?
The 11th?
Yep.
Yeah.
All right. So, and I'll talk with Chip and see what his availability is. So,
9 o'clock.
no, the 11th
It's 11 or
is
1:30.
at 11:30 to 1, I think. Is it 1:30?
I've forgotten now.
But I'll send you the information out. I already sent them.
But the other one was 9 o'clock.
Yeah.
Yeah, 9 o'clock is, yeah,
And that one's at UNG, right?
right, which is interesting. That they changed that, 11:30.
And it was in which building at UNG? I can go back and look. I got the email. I was just trying to.
All I'm showing is. It doesn't show the building on
I
that,
knew you did.
but I'll get it for you. I got it planned right on top of my desk, because I put a copy in everybody's box. All right, so the other thing is, So I sent y'all a proposal on Chattahoochee Street for these were 2 culverts. And I bet y'all didn't print them off, so I did.
No, I was glad you
Well, I
did.
would.
I was sitting there trying, I was
Right.
like, oh gosh, I'll have to print it.
I saw that.
I was like, I can't, that's something I can't look at on the.
Not an inexpensive venture, unfortunately. So,
And mine didn't pull up all the pages on my computer.
it's a PDF, wasn't it?
Yeah, but on my
weird.
phone, it pulled it all up, but when I went onto my computer on my email,
No, it's the
it
other way
didn't
around.
pull them all up. It was very weird.
No, it's the other way around.
Yeah.
Yes.
So I actually thought this would come back a lot higher. I hope they're right. But you still got to get past the design of the survey first, find out if we have any relocates on gas or, power or fiber and what have you. So, I say we put it out on the street and let's see what it comes back. So you would have to approve, initially, you would be approving the design and engineering because, you'd have to get a survey, which is 13,000 design, includes task 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So we're going to have some traffic study component, 9 and 10. So utility redesign, I mean, they're going to bill us by the hour, but that should be the amount it shouldn't exceed until you flip back to cost per services per hour, but we know that go in, which is attachment A. There's only one way you're gonna know, but I can tell you the pipes are shot in both those. And if you remember, my hope is that the school is gonna put more detention water on us. We're actually having them relocate, so it'll come back down Chattahoochee and then, of course, goes over to Carter. Carter is totally misaligned. So whether we were doing this or not, I'd be telling you, we've got to do that portion. Chattahoochee is undersized. That's the problem with Chattahoochee, and you're gonna have to build a culvert box. Y'all know where Gene Patterson's house is? So what he did in years past,
Christmas lights
where,
on Chattahoochee Street.
what he did in years past is he piped a portion of the creek. Somebody should ask me, how did he do that? Across his property. And if you ask me how he did that,
You would know.
I would. He got EPD approval. Well, the problem is now he's got the mouth of his pipe coming into an existing pipe. And so we'd have to build a whole culvert box there. Regardless, we would still have to, I'm not blaming him. I'm just saying, EPD doesn't let people pipe creeks. They did with him. So.
Now that culvert location 1,
Uh-huh.
you said that one's a size issue. What's the diameter of that currently?
I think that, Tony, and don't hold me to it, but I think that's actually a 28-inch pipe.
Mm-hmm.
And interesting, on culvert 2, we have 2 different size pipes in there.
Now that is the valley that's down there with all. I mean, when I drive back there, it's already got rock. It's just that the pipe is not big enough.
Yeah, that pipe, that's the bigger issue. That's the culvert number 2. That's where the problem is.
I'm sorry. I thought that was
Yeah.
number
No, if
1.
you know where Milton lives, or used to live,
Yes.
that's the mess.
That unopened street.
Yeah, that's, oh my gosh.
No, no, no.
Are both of those
Yeah.
concrete pipes currently?
So yes and no, because there's metal on number 2 as
Okay.
well. There's 2 different pipes in it. But that's the one, if we didn't do anything else, I'd tell you, after our inspection, we gotta replace it anyway, because it's just waiting to fail. And every rain event we've had lately, which have been bad, I mean, the bad ones, we've had, flooding at that area, but it's just a matter of the pipe sizing wrong.
Mm-hmm.
This isn't the first time it's flooded, but it's twice in this just the last 12 months. But this has been an ongoing issue. Now putting the school with their detention on, it's just adding to it. So what part of the price they would give us is try to figure out how much detention they would be sending to us. And then, the joke was, well, it might be 3%. Well, they participate 3% of the price, that's better off than we were. Because it's on them.
And the discharge out of culvert location number 2, that's just continuance, onto the creek that runs, perpendicular to,
Yeah, you can see the creek.
all the way down the creek.
Parallel.
Yeah, you can see it on, if you look at attachment E, it pretty much shows it right
Yeah,
there.
yeah. And so we're not looking to change, any of that. We're just trying to reinforce its current ability plus anything new that the school might
Right.
discharge as far as stormwater runoff.
Amen.
What's it gonna do to this properties right here in between the two culverts? Is it gonna, if it,
We would not touch any of that.
well,
We just took culvert.
what's the water gonna do
Yeah.
to it? Is it gonna go
Well, that's,
better?
we're not allowed to go in and make improvements on honest, kind of like
We're not
back to
allowed to-
Tony's question. So what EPD allows you is the natural flow of water. Well, we are not changing the natural flow. That's where was pipe culvert, because that was the direction of flow. So what happens between A to B, unfortunately, we have little to say about.
Yeah, I mean,
Actually increasing the flow would make a better pipe.
Well, it's right now, we recognize the pipe sizing is the issue,
Right.
and we've got failure on the other.
well, from the proposed new stormwater runoffs, obviously, there, we haven't materialized those yet. I'm talking about the school specifically. No one can come back to us and say anything about the discharge as it goes down the natural waterway.
No, I won't say no one, they can't. That's why we're trying to control it.
That's what I'm saying.
See, I'll tell you exactly what I'm doing. So the school's never been held accountable for any of their discharge, and they should be. And this time we're gonna recognize that they need to build more detention on their property. And, I tell you that they weren't real happy about that. But, they're getting creative. We don't have anything yet, but we've met with their engineers on a couple of occasions. So yes, you could hold somebody accountable, but same thing, this is why we're making our improvements, because somebody could hold us accountable for not improving to allow the flows.
All we would, only thing we can do is that any of the new improvements we have, like you said, they need to increase their retention, which all we're really doing is we're
Increasing flow.
determining we're limiting the amount.
Yeah, their flow comes right now across the front of the railroad tracks and then turns up underneath Main Street, goes past Carter Alley, and ends up hitting Chattahoochee and then hits up Carter Street. So the amount of flow today would be the same. Now they're building new impervious surface. So the issue, and with buildings and parking lots. So what we would hope would happen is they limit the detention, they're not flowing any more water to over the time.
And the technique on that, of course, and they can use any technique they want, I assume, but would be a vertical stack for the inlet in a retention
We don't
pond.
get in, yes.
But
Right.
as long as that pipe is not putting any more burden on us than it already is.
That would be our goal. I would be surprised if they can meet that.
Yeah.
And, they've never been responsible in the past. This last small addition they made, I said, no, you gotta put the tension in for every inch you're putting in impervious surface, and they did. Well, that pond's sufficient for what they did, but not sufficient for everything else. They're totally changing the whole layout up there. In parking.
How would we finance this? This project?
That'll be it'll be a capital component, won't be finance. This is one of those, you better take care of it while you can or you'll blow it out. Example is Victoria Lane. We told everybody it cost $81,000, and when it blew out, it cost us $109,000. So this is one of those you just got to eat and go. Well, it goes back to the idea too, we'd like them to participate.
Yeah. What's the time horizon on a project like this?
Well, we put this, you approve that, 6 months, we'd have the design. and it's a matter of getting the school to give us the, you know, all the data that supports it. We're gonna go back and forth with school, I can tell you that now.
That could be a year, once we get to that point.
They wanna open that school by, well, they had their divers, they wanna open that school this August, but look at the following August. But we've gotta be able to make our improvements well in advance of them. And we already know we're having a failure in one with Culvert pipes. So, you know, the sooner we can get it done, but we have to match their numbers. And, let's be honest, if, you know, it's fair that we want them to participate, I promise you it's gonna take more than a phone call. It takes some conversation, and so it should.
Do you have a recommendation on any of the account that this would come from? Whether we pay for, whether we have to pay for all of it or part of it, or?
TSPLOST, if we're successful, that might change the whole equation.
I-
And I'll just tell you right now, I want to go back to our legislature and ask them if there's any local dollars. There's a federal grant out there right now, but unfortunately it deals with equity all over again, and this wouldn't qualify.
Well, barring TSPLOST, if TSPLOST doesn't pass, is there a recommendation on the account?
Use your capital expenditure that you have right now in budget fund.
Okay, so. what we
Fortunately,
need-
y'all get to make those decisions. I don't have to. I can tell you where your pot of gold is, but it's not gonna be everywhere you want it to be.
So right now, if we do nothing, those pipes fail, those culverts fail, we end up with flooding across
Chattahoochee
Carter.
Carter.
and Chattahoochee. And that cuts off. Back up again. Okay, yeah, just that it's, we're talking 200 feet off of, Athens Street. 200 and 400 feet max off of Athens Street. And that's gonna prevent some access, for sure.
Well, certainly, we're not gonna let it go away. I mean, this is one of those things, we figured it out. Now, maybe we've got an opportunity that the schools can participate, they can or they can't. But at the end of the day, certainly, we know
We gotta do
that
it.
unfortunately, the Carter Street leaves us little and no options.
Yeah, the emergency repair is gonna cost us a lot more.
Well, I think we came out pretty good. We replaced the whole road and we, the original price was $82,000. I think we spent $109. So who would have known? But we never put it out for bid. And this would be bid, you know, how that works too. So we just need to get the design and survey information and match that up with whatever the school's detention issues are.
Say we'll go ahead
Do it.
and start with it.
Agreed.
So that would be on the agenda. We'll talk about that with finance as well, because that's an expenditure that we could take out of back to, I would recommend that those SPLOST dollars come out of, or use SPLOST $8 to begin with, to at least fund the survey and the design engineering. And then y'all can make that decision, whether or not you want to cut some up out of the general fund, which is probably not a bad idea as well. So,
That has to be done anyway.
So, let's make sure. So an amount not to exceed probably 54,000 we'll come back to, because we've got. We don't. See what it comes back. So I'm not paying the bid services yet, I'm just doing design and survey, that's what we'll talk to y'all about. We want to see what comes back before we pay to go out for bid. Let's see what comes with that.
And rent's gonna help us with easements?
So we're gonna have to see if we're gonna need them. We won't know if we will until we have, construction easement would be yes. Would be, but we'll have to see. We might have enough right of way to get away with some of that. But it will certainly be an open cut. There ain't doubt about that. So it'll inconvenience some folks for a little while. But this is one of those, if you hire a contractor, he wants in and out. So he wants to start when he knows he's got 3 days of good weather in front of him. So he can't, the issue will be utility relocates if we've got any, and we've got some natural gas down there. So it's a matter of whether or not we can work around that or not. So we'll place that on the work session agenda, get everybody else's input, we feed that to them. And then, so TSPLOST, I haven't got it yet, but I should be getting a proposed IGA. And, it is supposed to be a referendum question in our last meeting with them. The way it works, which is careful because we're on a microphone, I want to choose my words correctly because I've been chastised for this, but we would only be entitled to 1.9 million out of 325 million projected. So how is that done? 80-20. 20% would be divided by our population numbers. So those numbers are correct. Are they ones I agree with? When you go to the transportation form, you're going to see that all the money, as I point out to everybody and their brother that will listen to me, for the last 12 years has been spent Gainesville South. And that we're destined to make the same mistakes in North Hall that we're correcting in South Hall right now. And listen, I'd hate to be in their shoes, but, Spout Springs Road, $55 million. They've already spent $39 million on access. We're going to do the same thing all over again. We're going to have to take 52 and start gaining right away on that for all the growth it's going to take. McEver Road, $58 million. McEver intersections where they're going to put 4 roundabouts, $10 million. Ridge Road, and I don't disagree with these. These are areas, if you're familiar with Park Hill Drive and Milton Drive Extension or Skelton Road, $75 million. I don't disagree with any of them. There's just not enough money. And then proportionally, I worry if North Hall will support this referendum when they're not seeing activities taking place. The county, just to remind y'all, has offered $20 million for intersection improvements on 365, one of which would be at Lula Road and 52. So the idea is if, and they should be successful with this, I don't know the extent they will be, but if you pass TSPLOST, that opens up a new floodgate of money from DOT, so you can get a match. They want to get up to a $20 million match for 365 intersection improvement. So that would include Athens Street, if they want to open up Athens Street yet. I'm not a proponent of that at this point, but certainly Lula at 52 needs to be done. So nonetheless, so what would happen is hopefully they want to know what we're going to do with our $1.9 million. We're going to spend that on potential culvert repair, streetscape opportunities, and resurfacing. I wish we could be broader and more specific, but I think, an example on this project at $100,000 to replace those 2 culverts, that's an easy way to look at it. 5% of the dollars right there could easily go towards that project. So, any thoughts on that?
You said the culvert repair, resurfacing, and what was the other item, the third one?
So culvert repair,
Streetscape.
streetscape.
Was there any more talk about us getting our money more upfront than?
So this is where we left it in the last meeting. Was not, I think I told you already. They asked me if I was happy and I said, come on, how could I be happy? But my biggest issue is that there's not enough dollars being spent in North Hall overall. And I think we'll pay for that. we're paying for what mistakes we made in South Hall right now, 20 years later. And so I'm afraid we're gonna duplicate and do the same thing all over. But I understand, I wouldn't wanna be in their shoes either. But McEver, the widening of McEver, I have a hard time with that. Because that's a large amount of dollars right now. And I'm concerned that they'll be successful and build that in 5 years. What I'm worried about is 5 years from now, all they'll have is right-of-way acquisition. John Q. Public won't know where their penny went. And that, I think that would work, and then this comes up for a vote again in 5 years if it passes the first time. And I worry about that. Better to bite off what you can chew and give everybody a little taste of the pudding. I think that's probably my frustration is that for North Hall, I think they're gonna have great difficulty. I know Gainesville ought to be pretty content with 75 million plus their percentage of dollars, but at the same time, I don't know if you don't have North Hall supporting it. You can't touch it, feel it. I just pray they're right about the success of it. It's obviously needed. So, when I get the IGA, I'll give it to, Joey. But this will have to be, we have a pretty strict timeline, that we would have to adopt this by, and that would be mid-April. So you'd think they'd get it to me sooner rather than later, don't you? So the idea would be is this would end up being on the agenda if we get the IGA. They wanted, to know if we could get all the mayors in the room at the same time, not for ceremony, just so they can get all the signatures. We all argued we're not doing that. Too many people are like you, Joe. They all work. So the idea is this would be on our 17th agenda, but I don't have the IGA yet. So I'd tell you this, we've done this 100 times on IGA, so it shouldn't be that much difference. The collections are the difference in what the law allows for TSPLOST dollars, and basically what that means is we're projecting $325 million. We're pretty confident it will exceed that. Well, in the past, with TSPLOST, once you hit 325, the collection stopped. Well, now the law has changed that the collection continues and the percentages remain the same. Any questions?
I don't think so.
One for me on that, but it sounds like we've got, you got the requirement that they're gonna need for the not a, I guess it's a referendum.
Yeah,
on the-
and they want us to be more specific. Unfortunately, priorities change for us, just like us just talking about culvert pipe replacing. So,
I mean, if we can enhance, the description of what we're doing later, I'm sure we would, but you're just having to give them the initial verbiage.
well, I gave them enough to work on. I wanted $16 million of that, $225 million, and I was specific about the streetscapes. That kind of blew us off.
Yeah.
So we can go back to that conversation all over again. But back to your question.
So that's streets.